The Odin you see in the movies, the all-powerful king on his golden throne, is a lie. The real Odin was a wanderer and a seeker, so desperate for wisdom he would pay any price. But have you ever stopped to think about what the true cost of knowledge really is? Odin's story tells us it's far more than a kingdom or a battle. It's your comfort, your certainty, and sometimes even a piece of yourself. He famously paid for a single drink of water with his own eye, and that was just the warm-up act. In the ancient Norse world, one figure stands apart, not for the strength of his arm, but for the hunger in his mind. This is Odin, the All-Father, ruler of Asgard. You would think he'd be content. He had a throne, a Lidskjalf, where he could see everything that happened across the 9 realms. But for Odin, this wasn't a seat of contentment. It was a perch of restlessness. Every day, his 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, thought and memory, flew across the worlds, returning at dusk to whisper secrets into his ear. But it was never enough. For Odin, power was hollow without understanding. Sure, he was the god of war, but he was also the god of poetry and magic. He was a king defined not by what he had, but by what he lacked: real certainty. In a cosmos woven with the threads of fate, Odin was obsessed with knowing the secrets hidden from everyone else. His defining trait wasn't his spear or his crown. It was an insatiable, burning thirst for wisdom that would drive him to the edge of existence and cost him more than we can imagine. Odin's first great quest for knowledge took him to the very roots of Yggdrasil, the colossal world tree holding the cosmos together. There, hidden in the foundations of reality, was the well of Mimir. Its waters held cosmic knowledge, the memory of everything that was, is, and will be. Guarding this sacred place was Mimir, a being ancient beyond measure, whose wisdom was as deep and dark as the well he protected. Odin, king of the gods, walked up and asked for a drink. Mimir, knowing full well the value of his water, named his price. It wasn't gold. It wasn't a promise of power. The price was one of Odin's eyes. Think about that for a second. A god, a being of supposed perfection, was asked to mutilate himself, to surrender a part of his very being. The old texts, like the Prose Edda, tell us Odin didn't even hesitate. He gouged out his own eye and dropped it into the well. Only then did Mimir hand him the horn to drink. But what does this really mean? It's more than just a gruesome trade. An eye is how we perceive the world. By giving one up, Odin was sacrificing his ordinary, surface-level sight. He traded physical perception for cosmic understanding, sight for insight. It was an admission that to gain true wisdom, you have to be willing to destroy your current point of view. You have to sacrifice your comfortable, limited perspective for a deeper, more challenging truth. He lost an eye, but he gained foresight, and this was just the beginning. Not all wisdom is found meditating by a well. Some knowledge demands action, cunning, and a whole lot of risk. Odin's next obsession was for something just as powerful as cosmic truth, pure inspiration. He was after the legendary mead of poetry. This magical brew was created from the blood of the wisest being ever, Kvasir. Whoever drank it would become a master poet and scholar. But after Kvasir was murdered, the mead ended up in the hands of a giant named Suttung. He guarded it jealously in the heart of a mountain with his daughter Gunnlod standing watch. Odin knew he couldn't take this by force, so he sacrificed his comfort, his safety, and even his honor. He disguised himself as a wandering farmhand named Bolverk, which hilariously translates to worker of misfortune. Through a series of clever tricks, He ended up in the service of Suttung's brother. He then seduced Gunnlod, convincing her to let him have 3 sips of the mead over 3 nights. On the final night, Odin chugged the entire cauldron in 3 massive gulps, transformed into an eagle, and made a break for it, with a furious Suttung hot on his tail. This wasn't a noble sacrifice like his eye. This was a deep dive into deceit and danger. Odin became a trickster, a seducer, and a thief. He proved that some kinds of wisdom, creativity, eloquence, inspiration, require you to step way outside the lines. Knowledge isn't always waiting to be found. Sometimes it has to be stolen, an eye for foresight, his honor for inspiration. But for the ultimate prize, the universe demanded the ultimate price, Odin himself. His final and most profound sacrifice took place on the branches of Yggdrasil. Odin was jealous of the Norns, the weavers of fate, who carved runes into the tree to shape the destinies of all beings. These runes weren't just letters, they were symbols of the fundamental forces of the cosmos, a system of magic that held the secrets of creation. To learn their secrets, Odin underwent a terrifying ordeal. As he says in the Poetic Edda, he hung himself from a branch of the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights. He was wounded with his own spear, a sacrifice of a god to himself. No one gave him food. No one gave him water. He just hung there, suspended between worlds, teetering on the edge of death in total agony. This was more than a physical test. It was a ritual of death and rebirth. Odin was sacrificing his lower self to his higher self, surrendering his ego to the cosmos. It was only on the 9th night, at the absolute brink of non-existence, that he looked down and finally perceived the runes. They accepted his sacrifice and revealed their meanings. With a final scream, he seized them, and in that moment he was reborn. To grasp the deepest truths of existence, Odin had to symbolically die. He had to let go of everything he was to become something more. This ordeal teaches us that the most profound wisdom isn't something you can just learn or steal. It has to be earned through a trial that breaks you down and remakes you completely. So, what does it really mean to seek wisdom? Odin's journey gives us a powerful and unsettling answer. It's not a gentle academic pursuit. It is a path of relentless sacrifice. First, you have to sacrifice your perspective. Like Odin's eye, you must be willing to give up your comfortable worldview to gain deeper insight. You trade certainty for understanding. Second, you have to sacrifice your comfort. Like the theft of the mead, you have to be willing to take risks, get your hands dirty, and face the unknown. Real creativity doesn't live in your comfort zone. And finally, you might have to sacrifice yourself. Like Odin hanging from the tree, the deepest wisdom demands transformation. It requires you to let go of your ego and your old identity to be reborn. Odin's greatness doesn't come from his throne. It comes from his scars. The empty eye socket, the memory of his deceptions, the phantom pain of the spear. These are the receipts for his wisdom. The myth of Odin teaches us that wisdom isn't a destination. It's an endless, demanding journey that will fundamentally change you. And its true price is paid not with gold, but with pieces of yourself. Odin's story is a raw reminder that there are no shortcuts to real understanding. Every piece of knowledge has a cost, and the path to greatness is paved with what we're willing to give up. The All-Father's journey shows us that wisdom isn't about being perfect. It's about having the courage to be transformed by what you learn. So, what do you think? What's the greatest price someone can pay for wisdom today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you would like to hear more messages from the past, be sure to like and subscribe.